The Bears take on the Lions. 12:30 Eastern kickoff this Thursday. Happy Turkey Day, blah, 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 all that good stuff. The Bears are -1.5, totals 39. Now, we did see a flip of the lines in this game here, as Chicago actually opened up the betting as the 1-point dog. Now, we did see a 2-point move downward on the total as well. Once again, Chicago open +1, now -1.5. Total open 41, down to 39. 64% of the consensus are leaning toward Chicago. 65% shaded toward the under. Right now, Detroit is +108 on the money line. The Lions are also just 3-7-1 overall for the year, 4-7 against the spread in those games. They're in last place in the NFC North, 4.5 games back of the division lead. They rank at the bottom 10 in points allowed, bottom 10 in rush yards allowed. Their defense has allowed 26 points per contest in their last 4 on average. They're right in the middle of a 4-game losing streak, and they've dropped 7 out of their last 8. A couple more things to add about Detroit. They failed to cover in their last 6 straight. Matthew Stafford is doubtful for Thursday's action. Melvin, Flowers, Agnew, Ragnow, Hand, and Walker are all questionable as well. Now, the Bears on the other side, it's all about the defense in Chicago. They rank at the top 5 in points allowed, top 10 in pass yards allowed. Their defense is allowing just 14 points per game in their last 3. Roquan Smith has 83 tackles on the year, 3 tackles for loss. Danny Trevathan, 70 tackles on the year, 3 tackles for loss. Trevathan, keep an eye on him. He is listed as questionable for Thursday's action. Fuller has 3 picks. Mack has 6.5 sacks. Williams 6 sacks himself. Chicago 2-1 straight up in their last 3. They successfully covered the number in 2 out of those 3 games. Chicago, relatively healthy. We're only seeing 2 guys on this injury report. And of course, that's Trevathan, who's listed as questionable, and Shaheen is questionable as well. Now, total-wise, Detroit 4-2 to the over in their last 6. Give me the Bears -1.5 and the over 39 in that game. Before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick timeout and welcome you to the show. Got some lines and personal leans out for NFL Week 13. Once again, happy Thanksgiving, happy Turkey Day, all that jazz. Now, before we get into some more free lines and personal leans right here on YouTube, I got to remind you real quick to check me out on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage, where we went 5-0 yesterday in our premium selections for Monday on that website. We do daily plays on that site beginning at just $1.99 per month. We have a bunch of different memberships, tiers, and packages that you can subscribe to. And of course, at the end of the show, I will explain to you the main difference between my Patreon page and what I do here on YouTube. But once again, you can check out my very impressive record for free right on the homepage. All you have to do is click the link in the description section below. That's patreon.com/BrockPage. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive into our next matchup, and that is going to be Bills taking on the Cowboys, 4:30 Eastern kickoff in Dallas. The Cowboys are -7 at home, totals 44.5. We saw a 0.5 point fade of Dallas and movement downward on the total. Cowboys open 7.5, down to -7. Total open 45, down to 44.5. 52% are leaning Buffalo, 51% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Bills are +260 on the money line. Buffalo's also failed to cover in 3 out of their last 6. Their offense has averaged just 15 points per game in their last 4, throwing out that Miami game. Neshke, Neal, and Foster are all questionable for this Thursday's action. Just to give you guys a heads up, Buffalo lost to Cleveland and Philadelphia this year. So keep that in mind. They rank in the bottom 10 in scoring, bottom 10 in passing yards. Meanwhile, Dallas on the other side, they successfully covered the number in 4 out of their last 5. Yeah, I know there's drama down there in Dallas, but I'm not buying it. I don't buy it. Jerry Jones is a showman, and he's just saving face. He loves Garrett like a brother. Probably gave him a warning before he went public with his criticism. Probably said, hey, I got to do this to save face. But anyway, Dallas, once again, 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. Their offense is averaging 33 points per game in their last 4. Of course, throwing out that New England game. Nobody's going to score a bunch of points in New England at Gillette Stadium on a Sunday night or a Sunday evening with 35-mile-an-hour winds and freezing cold rain. Now, guys, Dak is completing 67% of his passes this year. He's thrown for over 3,400 yards. He's averaging 330 yards a game through the air. He's got 21 touchdown passes on the year and a 77.3 QBR. He also has 3 rushing touchdowns on the year as well. Zeke's rushed for 919 yards in a down year, right? We're talking about how bad Zeke is. He still has rushed for 919 yards on the year, 7 touchdowns for him. Of course, Amari Cooper has amassed 886 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns, 16 yards per reception he's averaging. The Cowboys rank top 3 in passing, top 3 in yards per play. They're also top 10 in points allowed at home. Nobody talks about this defense. Very good at home, top 10 in points allowed at home, top 10 in yards per play allowed as well. Smith, 98 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Quinn, 9.5 sacks for him. And Lawrence, 4.5 sacks for the big guy there. Now, total-wise, Buffalo, 3-1 to the under in their last 4, 80% to the under on the road. I'm going to lean Cowboys -7 and the under 44.5 in that game. All right, next matchup, it is going to be the Thursday night game, and that's going to be the Saints taking on the Falcons, 8:20 Eastern kickoff on Turkey Day. The Saints are -7, total 49. So a half a point move toward New Orleans and movement upward on the total. The Saints open 6.5 up to -7. Total open 48.5 up to 49. 69% are leaning New Orleans, 57% shaded toward the over. Right now the Falcons are plus 250 on the money line. Ishmael, Freeman, and Kaminsky are listed as questionable for Atlanta. The Falcons are just 3-8 on the year, 4-7 against the spread in those 11 games. They rank in the bottom 5 in points allowed, bottom 5 in pass yards allowed. They've dropped 7 out of their last 9 games, and they're just 3-6 against the spread in those 9. Atlanta's just 1-4 straight up at home, bottom 10 in home scoring, bottom 3 in home rushing. Meanwhile, the Saints on the other side, they are in the top 10 in road scoring, top 10 in passing. Drew Brees is completing 76% of his passes. He's averaging 268 yards per game. Michael Thomas, he's got over 1,200 yards receiving already, 6 touchdowns. He's averaging 113 yards per game. And Kamara, he's got 421 yards receiving out of the backfield. Now the Saints rank in the top 3 in rush yards allowed, top 10 in yards allowed per play. Cam Jordan has 9.5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss. Davis has 80 total tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and Williams has 4 interceptions and 12 pass breakups. New Orleans, first place in the NFC South, 9-2 straight up on the year, 4-1 on the road, 7-2 against the spread in their last 9. Line, Lattimore, and Harris are questionable, and when it comes to this total, New Orleans 3-3 to the under in their last 6. Atlanta 4-1 to the under in their last 5, 60% to the under at home. I'm going to lean Saints -7 and the under 49 in that game. Next matchup, it is going to be Redskins taking on the Panthers, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff in Charlotte. Carolina's -10, total 40.5. We saw a 1-point move toward Carolina and movement downward on the total. Carolina open as the 9-point favorite. They're now -10. Total open 41.5, down to 40 and a hook. 59% are leaning Carolina, 51% shaded toward the over. Right now the Redskins are plus 395 on the money line. The Redskins are also just 3-7 against the spread in their last 10. They're just 2-9 straight up overall for the year. Bottom 3 in scoring, bottom 5 in rushing, bottom 5 in rush yards allowed. Kerrigan, Thompson, and Payne are questionable. They're just 1-4 straight up on the road this year. Bottom 3 in passing, bottom 3 in offensive yards per play. The Panthers on the other side, top 10 in rushing, 6-3 against the spread in their last 9. Christian McCaffrey has rushed for over 1,100 yards on the year, 12 touchdowns on the ground. He's also caught 2 touchdown passes. He's averaging 12 yards per reception, and he's amassed 586 yards receiving thus far in the season. Total-wise, Carolina 2-1 to the under in their last 3. Washington 4-1 to the under on the road. I'm going to lean Panthers -10 and the under 40.5 in that game. Next matchup, game of the week. This is going to be the one that everybody has eyes on. I'm talking about the 49ers taking on the Ravens, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff in Baltimore. The Ravens are -5.5 total at 46. Now, we did see a 1-point move toward Baltimore after that impressive showing last night on Monday Night Football. We also saw movement downward on the total. The Ravens opened the betting as the 4.5-point favorite. They're now up to -5.5. Total open 47, down to 46. 67% of the consensus They're actually leaning towards San Francisco, 53% shaded toward the over. Right now, the 49ers are plus 170 on the money line. Now, the Niners have failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4. They're also just 2-4 against the spread in their last 6. Goodwin, Ford, Witherspoon, and Breida are all listed as questionable. Now, Baltimore, on the other side, they're the hottest team in the NFL right now, right in the middle of a 7-game winning streak, 7-0 straight up in their last 7, 6-1 against the spread in those 7 games. They're 4-1 straight up at home, top 3 in scoring, top 3 in rushing. Lamar Jackson, 816 yards on the ground rushing, 6 rushing touchdowns. He's averaging 80 yards per game on the ground. Mark Ingram, 778 yards on the ground himself, 9 touchdowns, 5.2 yards per carry. Baltimore also ranks at the top 3 in offensive time of possession, top 5 in yards per play at home. Lamar Jackson's thrown for over 2,400 yards on the year. He's averaging 300 yards passing per game, and he's thrown for 24 touchdown passes. One of his favorite targets, big tight end Andrews, 6 touchdowns receptions for Andrews. And when it comes to this total, Baltimore 3-3 to the under in their last 6, 60% to the under at home. Meanwhile, the 49ers, 60% to the under when traveling, 5-4 to the under in their last 9. I'm going to purchase the half a point, slide it down, and take Baltimore -5 and the under 46 in that game. Next matchup, it is going to be Packers taking on the Giants, and that'll be a 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff at the Meadowlands, MetLife Stadium. The Packers are -6 on the road, total 46. We saw a 1.5 point fade of Green Bay in movement upward on the total. Little recency bias there as Green Bay got shellacked by San Francisco on Sunday. But anyway, Green Bay opened as the 7.5 point favorite. They're down to -6. Total open 45.5 up to 46. 81% are leaning Green Bay, 80% shaded toward the over. Right now, the G-Men are plus 230 on the money line. Now, the New York Football Giants are just 2-9 straight up on the year, 4-7 against the spread in those 11. They're just 1-4 straight up at home, 1-4 against the spread in that same category. They're right in the middle of a 7-game losing streak. New York's bottom 10 in scoring, bottom 10 in passing, bottom 3 in points allowed. Ellison and Peppers are questionable. Green Bay on the other side, top 10 in offensive time of possession, 3-2 against the spread on the road. Aaron Rodgers is completing 65% of his passes. He's thrown for over 2,800 yards thus far in the year, 18 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. Aaron Jones is averaging 4.2 yards per carry. He's got 11 rushing touchdowns on the season. Devontae Adams, he's averaging 83 yards per game through the air, 7 receiving touchdowns for Devontae. Now, Green Bay, pretty healthy, actually very healthy. We only have one really major key player on the injury report. We have Brian Bulaga, who is questionable with a knee. Equanimous St. Brown, I know he's been on the injury report for a while as of late, but really the big guy, Bulaga, we'll have to keep an eye on him. But everybody else relatively healthy, and you need that this time of year. Now, total-wise, Green Bay 3-0 to the under in their last trio of ball games, 60% to the under when traveling. The G-Men on the other side, 80% to the under at home. I'm going to lean Green Bay -6 on the road and the under 46 in that game. Next matchup, Cleveland taking on the Steelers. Nice little rematch here of the helmet gate, the helmet thrashing. But anyway, Cleveland taking on Pittsburgh, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff this Sunday in the Steel City. The Browns are -1.5, totals at 40, and we did see a flip of the lines in this game here. Cleveland actually opened as the 3-point dog in this matchup. We did see movement upward on the total as well. The Browns open +3, now -1.5. Total open 38.5, up to 40. 65% are leaning Cleveland, 66% shaded toward the under. Right now, the Steelers are +105 on the money line. They did name a new starting quarterback today. Mason Rudolph will not be starting, so keep an eye on that. Pittsburgh, regardless, 5-1 straight up in their last 6, 7-2 against the spread in their last 9. They rank the top 10 in points allowed, top 10 in pass yards allowed. Devin Bush has 79 tackles on the year, 6 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and 4 fumble recoveries. TJ Watt, 11.5 sacks on the year, 16.5 tackles for loss, 5 forced fumbles. Bud Dupree also has 12.5 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. Now, the Steelers rank in the top 10 in points allowed at home, top 5 in pass yards allowed at home, and top 3 in yards per play allowed at home as well. Now, Cleveland on the other side, they failed to cover in 5 out of their last 7. They rank in the bottom 10 in road scoring, bottom 10 in road offensive time of possession. They're just 2 and 3 straight up away from home, 40% against the spread in that same category, and they failed to cover in 7 out of their 11 ball games overall for the year. Total-wise, Cleveland's 3 and 3 to the over in their last 6. Pittsburgh 3 and 3 to the over at home. I'm going to lean Pittsburgh plus 1.5 and the over 40 in that game. Next matchup, Titans taking on the Colts. And that'll be a 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff in Indianapolis. The Colts are the 2.5-point favorite in this one, total 43 and a hook. We saw a 1-point fade of Indy and movement upward on the total. The Colts open 3.5 down to minus 2.5. Total open 42 and a hook up to 43 and a hook. 59% are leaning Tennessee. 76% shaded toward the over. Right now the Titans are plus 120 on the money line. Tennessee ranks in the bottom 10 in passing, bottom 5 in offensive time of possession. They're also bottom 10 in pass yards allowed, bottom 10 in road scoring. They've lost 3 out of their 5 games away from home this year, 2 and 3 against the spread in those 5. Meanwhile, the Colts on the other side, 4 and 2 straight up at Lucas Oil Stadium, 2-0 against the spread in their last couple of games. They rank in the top 3 in rushing, top 6 in offensive time of possession. Williams and Wilkins averaging over 5.4 yards per carry this year. Indy's going to need him because Marlon Mack is out indefinitely, but Indy's still capable of moving the ball on the ground. Their defense, as a matter of fact, on the other side, held their opponents to just 16 points per game in their last 3. Darius Leonard, 71 tackles on the year, 3 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. Leonard also has 2 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles. And, of course, Justin Houston, 8 sacks on the year, 11 tackles for loss. And when it comes to this total, Indy is 60% to the under in their last 5. That's Indy 60% to the under in their last 5. Tennessee, 60% to the under on the road. I'm going to lean toward the home chalk in this one. Give me Indy minus 2.5 and the under 43.5 in that game.
Why are you laughing?
I am not laughing. All right, next game. Next game. Tampa Bay taking on Jacksonville.
You're laughing at me. Why?
I just hear rummaging and like rustling and beeping and.
There's no beeping yet.
Yeah, there was beeping when you touched when you hit the microwave. All right, next game. Buccaneers. That's my wife, guys. She's the best. Yeah, she eating good.
I'm eating soup.
Okay, she's eating soup. Next game, Buccaneers taking on the Jags. 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff in Jacksonville. The Jags are minus 1.5 after laying a stinker this past Sunday. Totals at 49. The Jags, believe it or not, opened the betting as the 4-point favorite in this one. We saw movement upward on the total as well. So once again, Jacksonville open minus 4 all the way down to minus 1.5. Total open 48.5 up to 49. 76% are leaning Buccaneers. 51% shaded toward the under. Right now, Tampa Bay is catching even money on the money line. Guys, Tampa Bay, they can move the ball. They rank in the top 3 in scoring, top 5 in passing. Jameis has thrown for nearly 3,400 yards on the year. I know he leads the league in interceptions, but he could sling it, man. He's thrown for nearly 3,400 yards on the year. He's averaging 327 yards per game. He's got 22 touchdown passes as well. Chris Godwin, he's got nearly 1,100 yards receiving. He's averaging 97 yards per game. He's got 9 touchdown receptions on the year. And, of course, Mike Evans, he's right there with him. He's got over 1,000 yards on the year. He's averaging 95 yards per game, and he's got 7 touchdown receptions as well. This Tampa Bay offense, they're averaging 35 points in their last 4 games. They also rank in the top 3 in rush yards allowed. And Shaq Barrett, not a lot of people are talking about him. He's got 12.5 sacks on the year, 15 tackles for loss, 5 forced fumbles. Now, when it comes to this injury report, Allen and Nelson are questionable. Jacksonville on the other side, losers in their last 3 straight. They failed to cover in 5 out of their last 7. Their defense has allowed 34 points per game on average in their last 3. They rank in the bottom 10 in scoring, bottom 10 in points allowed, bottom 5 in yards allowed per play. Now, total-wise, Jacksonville 6-2 to the over in their last 8. Tampa Bay 9-0 to the over in their last 9. 9 straight overs for the Bucs. They're also 5-1 to the over when traveling. Give me Tampa Bay plus 1.5 and the over 49 in that matchup. Next game, Jets, Bengals. Is it a trap game? Jets taking on the Bengals, and that's going to be a 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff in Cincinnati. The Jets are -4, total 40.5. We saw a half a point move toward New York and movement downward on the total. The Jets open 3.5 up to -4. Total open 42.5 down to 40 and a hook. 76% are leaning Jets, 82% shaded toward the under. Right now, Cincinnati's plus 170 on the money line. Cincy still winless on the year, 0-11 straight up on the season, just 4-7 against the spread in those 11. They rank in the bottom 3 in scoring, bottom 5 in rushing. They scored 17 points or fewer in 9 out of their last 10 games. Now, the Jets on the other side, they're starting to heat up a little bit. They're in the middle of a 3-game winning streak. They're perfect 3-0 against the spread in those 3 games. They covered and beat Oakland, Washington, and the Giants. They also rank in the top 3 in rushing yards allowed, top 5 in yards allowed per play. Adams has 63 tackles, 6.5 sacks, 11.5 tackles for loss. That's all from that safety position, by the way. Jets rank in the top 3 in rush yards allowed on the road, top 5 in yards allowed per play on the road as well. When it comes to this total, the Jets are 5-2 to the over in their last 7. Cincy 4-1 to the over at home. I'm going to lean New York Jets -4 in the over 40.5 in that matchup. Next game, Eagles, Dolphins, 1 o'clock, Miami. The Eagles are -9, total 46. Saw a 1.5 point move toward Philadelphia and movement downward on the total. The Eagles open 7.5 up to -9. Total open 48.5 down to 46. 72% are leaning Eagles, 74% shaded toward the under. Right now, Miami's plus 325 for an outright win. Miami 1-5 at home, 2-4 against the spread in that same category. Bottom 3 in scoring, bottom 3 in rushing. Philadelphia on the other side, top 5 in rush yards allowed, top 5 in defensive time of possession. Philadelphia 60% to the over on the road. Miami 4-2 to the over in their last 6. Give me the Eagles -9 and the over 46 in that matchup. Next game, Rams taking on the Cardinals. That's going to be a 4:05 Eastern kickoff in that matchup there in the desert. The Rams are -3.5, total 47 and a hook. Pretty good two-way action when it comes to the spread. Not a whole lot of movement there as of yet. We did see a little bit of movement upward on the total. The Rams open and remain -3.5. Total open 46.5 up to 47 and a hook. Right now, Arizona's plus 140 on the money line. Arizona's also 8-3 against the spread overall for the year. They've successfully covered the number in 6 out of their last 7. They're covering 60% of their games at home this year. And Murray, he's averaging 284 yards passing per game. He's thrown for 14 touchdown passes, just 5 interceptions. Chandler Jones is leading the charge with 12.5 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, 5 forced fumbles, and 3 fumble recoveries. Now the Rams on the other side, losers in 5 out of their last 8. They rank at the bottom 10 in rushing, bottom 3 in defensive time of possession. Havenstein and Williams are listed as questionable. When it comes to this total, Arizona's 3-0 to the over in their last 3, 5-2 to the over in their last 7. I'm going to purchase the half a point, buy it up, and take Arizona plus 4 in the over 47.5 in that matchup. Next game, Raiders taking on the Chiefs. 4:25 Eastern kickoff at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. The Chiefs are -10, total 51.5. We saw a 1.5 point move toward Kansas City and movement upward on the total. The Chiefs open 8.5 up to -10. Total open 51 up to 51.5. 59% are leaning Chiefs, 54% shaded toward the under. Right now, Oakland's plus 410 on the money line. Oakland's just 1-4 straight up on the road, 0-2 against the spread in their last couple of games. They rank in the bottom 10 in road scoring, bottom 10 in offensive time and possession on the road as well. They also rank in the bottom 3 in points allowed away from home and bottom 3 in yards allowed per play on the road. Kansas City on the other side, top 5 in scoring, top 3 in passing. Mahomes is completing 66% of his passes. He's thrown for over 2,800 yards on the year, 328 yards per game he's averaging, and he's thrown for 19 touchdown passes. Now the big tight end, Travis Kelce, 833 yards on the season, 4 touchdowns. He's averaging 13 yards per reception. The Chiefs are also top 3 in offensive yards per play at home. Tyreek Hill's got 543 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns. He's averaging 78 yards per game through the air. And McCole Hardman, 5 touchdown receptions for him. He's averaging 20 yards per reception himself. Kansas City, 3-2 against the spread in their last 5, 6-5 against the number overall for the year. Now, Okafor, Damian Williams, and Bell are listed as questionable for this Sunday's action. In total-wise, Kansas City is 3-1 to the over in their last 4. 6 out of their last 9 got over the number as well. They're 80% to the over at home. Oakland, on the other side, 60% to the over when traveling. 6 out of their last 9 got over the total themselves. I'm going to lean Kansas City minus 10 and the over 51.5 in that matchup. Next game, Chargers, Broncos, 425 Denver. The Chargers are minus 3, total 38.5. Now, we did see a flip of the lines in this matchup here as the Chargers open as the 1.5-point dog. We also saw movement upward on the total. The Chargers open plus 1.5, now minus 3. Total open 38, up to 38.5. 63% are leaning Chargers, 51% shaded toward the under. Right now, Denver's plus 130 on the money line. Denver has also successfully covered the number in 3 out of the last 4. They're 5-2 against the spread in their last 7. They rank in the top 10 in points allowed, top 5 in pass yards allowed. Justin Simmons has 3 interceptions on the year, 2 tackles for loss, 65 total tackles on the year. Von Miller has 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, and Purcell has 6.5 tackles for loss as well for Denver. The Broncos are 3-2 against the spread at home this year, top 10 in yards per play allowed at home as well. Now, the Chargers, on the other side, they've dropped 5 out of their last 7 games. They've also failed to cover in 5 out of those 7. They rank in the bottom 10 in scoring, bottom 10 in road rushing. Okung, Davis, Tevai, and Jackson are all listed as questionable. The Chargers are 4-7 straight up overall, 3-8 against the spread in those 11 games. And when it comes to the total, the Chargers are 80% to the under in their last 10. Denver 5-2 to the under in their last 7. I'm going to lean toward the home dog in this one. Give me the Broncos plus 3 and the under 38.5 in that game. Next matchup, Sunday night primetime. It is going to be Patriots, Texans, 8:20 Houston. The Patriots are minus 3, totals 44.5. We saw a 1.5-point fade of New England and movement downward on the total. The Pats open 4.5 down to minus 3. Total open 45 down to 44.5. 67% are leaning New England, 56% shaded toward the under. Right now, Houston's plus 150 on the money line. Houston's also failed to cover in 4 out of their last 5. They're covering just 20% of their games at NRG Stadium. They also rank in the bottom 10 in pass yards allowed, bottom 10 in yards allowed per play. The Patriots on the other side, 10-1 straight up overall for the year, 7-4 against the spread in those 11 games. They're covering 67% of their games when traveling. They also rank in the top 5 in scoring, top 10 in passing. Tom Brady is thrown for nearly 3,000 yards on the year, 15 touchdown passes. Julian Edelman is leading the charge with 809 yards receiving, 4 touchdown catches. The Pats rank in the top 5 in offensive time of possession, top 3 in defensive time of possession, top 3 in points allowed. Jamie Collins has 6 sacks, 11 tackles for loss. Collins also has 3 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. Kyle Van Noy and Adam Butler have 5.5 sacks apiece, and Devin McCourty, 5 interceptions for him. The Patriots rank in the top 3 in pass yards allowed, top 3 in yards allowed per play. They are very, very healthy thus far in the year. Sanu is questionable with an ankle. He should play. Harris is questionable with a hammy. He's just a special teams guy. Now, total-wise, New England 6-2 to the under in their last 8. 5 out of their last 6 away from home stayed under the number as well. Meanwhile, Houston, 4 straight unders for them in their last 4 games. 80% to the under at home. I'm going to lean Patriots minus 3 and the under 44.5 in that game. And, of course, I'm going to slide my next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Vikings taking on the Seahawks, 8:15 Eastern kickoff, Monday Night Football. The Seahawks are minus 3, totals 49. Saw a 0.5 point move towards Seattle and movement upward on the total. The Seahawks open 2.5 up to minus 3. Total open 48.5 up to 49. 61% are leaning Seahawks, 62% shaded toward the over. Right now, Minnesota's plus 135 on the money line. The Vikings have failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4. They rank in the bottom 10 in road time and possession. Joseph Smith, Thielen, Harris, Klein, and Gideon are all questionable. Meanwhile, the Seahawks have won 7 out of their last 8. They're 3-0 against the spread in their last 3 games. They rank in the top 10 in scoring, top 10 in rushing, top 10 in yards per play. Chris Carson has 879 yards on the ground, 4 rushing touchdowns. Rashad Penny's averaging 5.9 yards per carry. He's also got 2 rushing touchdowns as well. The Seahawks rank in the top 10 in home scoring, top 10 in home passing. Wilson has thrown for over 2,900 yards on the year, 24 touchdown passes. Tyler Lockett, 831 yards receiving, 6 touchdown catches. And big-ass DK Metcalf, 17 yards per reception, 5 touchdown receptions for DK. When it comes to Seattle, they rank in the top 10 in rush yards allowed. Bobby Wagner, 103 tackles on the year. KJ Wright, 95 tackles for him. Now, when it comes to the injury report, Thorpe and Clowney are listed as questionable for the Seahawks. When it comes to this total, Seattle's 2-1 to the over in their last 3, 60% to the over at home. Minnesota, 5 out of their last 6 got over the total themselves. I'm going to lean Seahawks -3 and the over 49 in that game. All right, let's go ahead and dive into our quick pick recap. Once again, brought to you by patreon.com/BrockPage, where we went 5-0 in our premium selections on Monday. I like Seattle -3 over 49, New England -3 under 44.5. Kansas City -10 over 51.5. Denver +3 under 38.5. Arizona +4 over 47.5. Carolina -10 under 40.5. Indianapolis -2.5 under 43.5. Tampa Bay +1.5 over 49. Baltimore -5 under 46. Philadelphia -9 over 46. Jets -4 over 40.5. Green Bay -6 under 46. Pittsburgh +1.5 over 40. New Orleans -7 under 49. Dallas -7 under 44.5. And last but certainly not least, I like Chicago -1.5 and the over 39 in that game. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Once again, don't forget to check me out on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage, where, like I said, we went 5-0 in our premium selections yesterday on Monday on that website. We do daily plays on that site beginning at just $1.99 per month. We have a bunch of different memberships, tiers, and packages that you can subscribe to. Now, what you're probably thinking is, what's the difference between what you do here on YouTube and your Patreon page? And that's a great question. Basically, what we do here on YouTube is we handicap every single game on the board, both the side and the total. And if you were to bet your hard-earned money that way on every single game, side and total, you're going to lose in the long run. And as a matter of fact, you'll probably end up losing in the short run as well. The books are too sharp. They're too smart. The math is always going to be against you if you bet that way. So what we do on Patreon is we really narrow it down and dial it in and focus on 3 to 4 premium selections per day. They're personal selections of mine, games that I personally have action on. They're high percentage selections. And I'll tell you this much, my current record on Patreon is a lot better than it is on YouTube. And you could check out that record for free right now. It's on the homepage. All you have to do is click the link in the description section below. That's patreon.com/BrockPage. But most importantly, guys, I got to thank you for tuning in right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. Happy Tuesday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you on patreon.com/BrockPage.